yourself first. Most men miss the earliest signs of attraction not because they're subtle, but because they're hidden in everyday behavior. A few seconds of facial cues, tone shifts, or posture gestures can reveal far more than words ever do. One of the most overlooked indicators of attraction is the way a woman adjusts her level of attention compared to her usual behavior. When she's interested, her focus becomes noticeably selective. She listens more carefully, responds more thoughtfully, and tracks the flow of the conversation with a level of consistency she doesn't extend to casual acquaintances. This type of attentiveness isn't about politeness, it's about cognitive investment. She weighs your words, stores details for later, and shapes her responses based on what she learns from you. Many men misinterpret this as friendliness, but the sustained quality of her focus sets it apart from routine social engagement. A second cue appears in how she manages eye contact rather than simply looking at you. She uses her eyes strategically, shifting between direct focus, brief glances away, and re-engaging at moments when the conversation becomes more personal or emotionally revealing. This shift signals that she's regulating her own reactions, trying to show interest without appearing overly direct. The pattern isn't random, it reflects a manual processing and emotional awareness. Men often mistake this mixture of directness and hesitation as uncertainty when it's actually a controlled expression of attraction. Another commonly missed sign is the subtle change in her voice when she talks to you compared to others. A vocal tone naturally adjusts based on comfort level, emotional arousal, and interpersonal interest. When she's attracted, her voice may soften, fluctuate more, or acquire warmer intonations that don't appear in neutral conversations. Shifts is rarely deliberate. It's an involuntary response linked to heightened engagement. Most guys focus on the content of what she says, not the tonal contours that reveal the underlying emotional state. Her facial expressions provide layers of information that men often ignore. When someone experiences genuine attraction, the face shows micro expressions, quick flashes of emotional response that appear before conscious control can suppress them. These include small, rapid smiles, brief eyebrow raises, or a slight widening of the eyes. They appear for fractions of a second, typically after you say something interesting or right before she responds. The reason men overlook them is simple. They're subtle, brief, and easy to dismiss as random movements, yet they consistently signal emotional stimulation and positive anticipation. Another indicator arises in how she adjusts her physical posture during interactions. A woman who's attracted often shifts her body orientation toward you even when the space doesn't require it. Her shoulders, chest, and feet may slightly angle in your direction. This isn't about overt flirting or dramatic gestures. It's about unconscious alignment. And when interest is present, the body tends to minimize barriers such as crossed arms or angled hips and open naturally, men frequently misread this as a relaxed posture, not realizing it's a directional cue linked to emotional openness. Women also reveal attraction through rapid yet contained changes in facial tension. When she's around someone she likes, she may go through momentary expressions of excitement, amusement, or self consciousness, only to quickly reset her face to a more neutral position. There's a cycle reflects inner conflict. She wants to display interest but also wants to maintain composure. Most men notice the visible part, the neutral expression, but miss the preceding micro shift that exposes her true emotional state. A significant yet subtle sign appears in how frequently she initiates a micro interactions. Attraction rarely manifests through grand gestures. Instead, it shows up in small repeated attempts to keep the interaction going. She might comment on something minor, ask a simple question, or respond with more detail than necessary. These micro initiations demonstrate that she is seeking conversational continuity. Men often view these moments as routine exchanges instead of recognizing their role as indicators of sustained interest. If you want clear breakdowns of these signals and how to interpret them accurately, subscribe and enable notifications. Her attention to your emotional responses is another cue many men miss. When a woman is attracted, she monitors not just what you say, but how you react. She watches your expressions, your tone, your pauses, and even your hesitation patterns. This analysis helps her adapt her communication to match your emotional rhythm. It's an advanced form of social calibration that doesn't occur when she's indifferent. Men who interpret this as a simple attentiveness fail to realize it reflects deeper relational interest. Attraction often triggers a subtle grooming behaviors that appear spontaneously. She might adjust her hair, touch her neck, lightly reposition her clothing, or check her posture mid-conversation. These actions aren't attempts to seduce. Their psychological reactions are linked to hidden self-awareness. When someone is around a person they like, their brain prompts them to regulate appearance unconsciously. The mistake men make is assuming these gestures are vanity rather than emotional indicators. Her pacing and conversation frequently reveals more than her words. A woman who's attracted might slow down during emotionally relevant topics or speed up slightly when she feels excited or nervous. This rhythm shift depends on the topic's impact on her feelings. Many men assume pacing changes are random or driven by personality, but in relational contexts, they're often linked to psychological engagement. Another overlooked sign is the way she reacts to pauses in conversation. If she's comfortable and interested, she doesn't rush to fill every silence. Instead, she uses quiet moments to observe and connect. Her calmness in these spaces reflects trust and emotional ease. On the other hand, a nervous eagerness to keep talking can also signal attraction, but only when paired with other cues. Understanding the difference requires careful observation. Physical proximity is a major indicator that many men underestimate. A woman woman who consistently reduces the distance between you, even slightly, is expressing trust and comfort. She may stand closer during conversations, lean in during explanations, or position herself in your orbit, even when alternatives exist. These adjustments appear minor but are often intentional on a subconscious level. Another cue lies in the timing of her reactions. If she responds faster to your messages than to others, or if she pauses intentionally before answering to appear composed, both patterns indicate that your interaction carries emotional weight. Response timing is one of the most reliable behavioral metrics for assessing interest, yet is commonly misinterpreted as casual texting habits. Attraction often prompts increased curiosity. She asks more about your preferences, your experiences, your values, and even your routines. These questions go beyond small talk. They reflect her attempt to assess compatibility. Women rarely invest this degree of inquiry into people they view neutrally, and men frequently mistake this curiosity for politeness rather than recognizing it as evaluative engagement. Her laughter patterns shift noticeably when attraction is present. She may laugh more easily even at subtle humor because emotional arousal heightens her sensitivity to social cues. This isn't about forced amusement, it's about genuine emotional receptivity. The laughter often comes slightly quicker with a softer tone and less flirting than usual. Another overlooked signal is a selective sharing. A woman who's interested opens up, strategically revealing more personal details and stories that carry emotional relevance. She's testing whether you respond with similar vulnerability. This mutual disclosure process reflects control risk-taking, a behavior strongly tied to attraction. A subtle but telling sign appears in how she positions objects around her. If she removes barriers between you, such as setting her bag aside, shifting her drink away, or turning her chair toward you, she's creating psychological openness. These gestures demonstrate subconscious willingness to connect without abstraction. Her sense of humor becomes more flexible around someone she likes. She adapts to your comedic style, responds more dynamically, and tries to match your tone. Humor synchronization is a cognitive bonding mechanism, and women rarely engage in it deeply unless attraction is involved. Another powerful indicator is behavioral mirroring. She might adopt your gestures, posture, or phrasing patterns without realizing it. This isn't mimicry, it's a neurological response associated with a rapport and emotional attunement. Men often overlook this because it unfolds subtly over time. Attraction often increases her emotional responsiveness. She reacts more strongly to your successes, frustrations, or concerns. Her empathy becomes more visible and faster. This heightened responsiveness indicates that she's emotionally invested in your well-being. A woman who's attracted tends to highlight a positive aspects of you repeatedly. She might reference your strengths, remember your achievements, or acknowledge your efforts in ways she doesn't with others. These affirmations are signals of selective admiration and not generic compliments. Her willingness to make logistical adjustments is another key sign, and whether she shifts her schedule slightly, meets you halfway, or finds response to cross paths. These adjustments reflect prioritization. Attraction prompts people to create small opportunities for proximity and interaction. Attraction often influences her digital behavior. She may view your stories quickly, interact with your posts more consistently, or send reactions that extend conversations. These micro engagements are modern cues of emotional investment, and yet many men dismiss them as passive scrolling. Her body becomes more expressive when she's emotionally affected by the interaction. She might use her hands more, animate her facial expressions, or adjust her posture and response to your words. Increased expressiveness signals a psychological arousal. She may recall details from previous conversations that you barely remember mentioning. This long-term memory retention reflects interest-driven attention. People store more information from individuals they're attracted to because their brain assigns a higher value to those interactions. Another cue lies in how she handles interruptions. If she returns to the topic after a distraction, a friend arriving, a phone notification, noise, and the environment demonstrates she was genuinely invested in the conversation. Indifference rarely motivates someone to re-engage that quickly. Attraction influences how she observes your behavior in social settings. She pays attention to how you interact with others, how you carry yourself, and how people respond to you. This monitoring is evaluative rather than controlling. She is collecting data to refine her perception of you. Would you like to always be the first to see our new videos? So don't forget to subscribe. A significant sign appears in moments of unguarded expression. When she thinks you're not looking, she may glance at you with an expression that disappears once she realizes you've noticed. These unfiltered looks reveal a level of emotional interest that conscious control tries to mask. Her level of improvisation increases around someone she likes. She becomes more flexible, spontaneous, and adaptable in the flow of conversation. Attraction stimulates creativity, making the interaction feel more dynamic and fluid. Women often show attraction through supportive behavior. She may subtly encourage your ideas, engage with your goals, or validate your reasoning. This doesn't indicate agreement on everything. Rather, it shows she values your perspective enough to strengthen the dialogue. Her boundaries shift subtly when interest develops. She allows a closer proximity, longer interactions, and more personal questions. This doesn't mean she drops her limits. It simply indicates she's comfortable expanding the relational perimeter around you. Another cue appears in her anticipation patterns. She might show excitement before seeing you or display subtle changes in mood when you join a group. Her emotional anticipation reveals inner role processing that may rarely recognize. Attraction can amplify her self-awareness. She becomes more conscious of her gestures, tone, and reactions. This heightened awareness isn't about insecurity. It reflects her desire to manage the impression she makes. She may display selective vulnerability, revealing something slightly personal to gauge whether you handle it with care. This test isn't manipulative, it's a safety mechanism. When she offers these fragments of vulnerability, she's exploring emotional compatibility. Finally, one of the clearest signs appears in her consistency across different settings. If she maintains a similar level of engagement, curiosity, responsiveness, and openness, whether you're in person, texting, or in group environments, it indicates a stable attraction rather than momentary friendliness. Consistency is the most reliable indicator because it reflects genuine emotional investment rather than situational behavior. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.